Hello and welcome to this live broadcast or rebroadcast. And we have a question for you. Are you curious how to use Snapchat to grow your influence? Are you curious, what's going to be bigger, Snapchat or Instagram stories? And what are the hacks to really make Snapchat, work and build your influence? We're going to be talking about that in this broadcast in just a second. My name is Sean Cano. I'm on here with Benji, and this is Video Influencers. And our passion is to help you build your influence, income, and impact with online video. So, hey, if you're just joining or if you're watching the rebroadcast, we want to hear from you in the live chat. We'd love it if you hit the like button and spread the word, because we're going to be doing Q&A at the end. But today's topic is Snapchat. But Benji's going to give you a little bit of background about video influencers, and then we're going to dive into it.
What's up, influencers? Welcome to Video Influencers, where we help you build your influence, income, and impact with online videos. And I am Benji Travis. As you guys just saw, that was Sean Cano. We've been doing YouTube for about 8 years now, both of us individually, collaboratively. We've been working with other people to grow their influence and their income, and a lot of experience, great experiences, and I think a lot of successes. And you know what? We thought a couple of years ago when we were just hanging out, it's like we wanted to help other people do it, not just directly, but indirectly through YouTube. So we created Video Influencers to do exactly that. And we bring you tips and tricks videos every single week. And in addition, I think even better is weekly interviews with actual YouTubers who are doing it. Both mega stars like Casey Neistat, and even people that you might not know but are still making huge successes, huge leaps and bounds for their own personal business or endeavors. And we're really proud of that because, Sean and I, we know a lot because of our experiences, but never could we ever say, or would we say, that we know everything. In fact, there's just so many success stories and so many different ways to grow your influence, grow your income, and impact with online videos that we'll never know. And that's why the interviews are so important. So here you go. We're going to be talking about Snapchat today. And this was actually a topic I brought up. I said, we want to do this because obviously, Snapchat is all the rage right now. The attention is there, and there's still a lot of confusion, not only how to use it, I was one of those people, but how to actually grow your influence on it, grow your income, and make an impact. So I'll hand it back to Sean to kick it off with some stats.
Awesome. So if you're joining us, you're interested in how do you use Snapchat to build your influence? How do you grow your Snapchat? How do you get Snapchat followers? But we wanted to kick it off with just a few stats. And actually, this is, far from comprehensive, but we threw out a little survey before we started here just to kind of get some feedback on which platform do you like best. And so here's a survey on my Twitter happening right now. And it's looking like about 3 out of 4 people are leaning towards Snapchat. So Benji's got his here. He threw in a couple others, and he did the survey on Twitter. So Twitter's number 1 right now. Snapchat's number 2, with Instagram at a next second. So what's interesting from this is, and we'd love to hear from you, and let us know in the live chat or in the rebroadcast. Let us know in the comments, which one do you like better and why? Which one are you using and which one are you leaning towards? Because it's interesting to see these trends right now. And of course, one of the big battles is kind of Snapchat versus Instagram and what's going to happen there. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit and some theories on that. But just a couple stats, like what's happening with Snapchat? Well, as of pretty recently, there's been 150 million daily active users. And one interesting thing about this stat is that it's very active. Like Snapchat is such an engaged platform. It's not really a vanity metric. That's very, very active. 50 million in Europe. And so you see different uptake and different usage globally. 80% of all US social media users use Snapchat. And we're going to be talking about, of course, the different demographics, right? And Snapchat definitely at this time skews lower. We'll talk about some different strategies, but this is super interesting. That for millennial teens, this is a great chart that just for your strategy in general, what you're thinking. YouTube's number 1. Cool, right? And we're super passionate about YouTube. Then you have Facebook, and then you have Instagram. And mind you, Instagram here is going to be, of course, the photo side of things, which is still a huge strength. But Snapchat is this major influential platform with how millennial teens are spending their time on social. And so there's a lot of usage there, and sometimes there's a lot of confusion there. And people are wondering, is it right for me? And is it right for my brand? And so we have some, tips for that and some strategies.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And yeah, when I put up that poll on Twitter, I knew that people were going to vote Twitter, right? So it was really about what came second. And I was actually surprised how quickly Snapchat just rose right to first place after Twitter, because I would say that Twitter, the users probably skew a little older compared to Snapchat, but yet Snapchat is still winning on the polls, right? So the data shows clearly, and this is real-time data. That's why Sean and I wanted to do this, right? And right now I've got about 317 votes. So I think that's pretty comprehensive. Short amount of time. I bet if it went all the way to the end of the day, Snapchat could potentially overtake Twitter. The reason I bring all this up, because the question is still, how do you grow your influence, right? Because the problem with Snapchat is there's no discoverability. So what that means is, unlike YouTube, YouTube actually gets you in front of people, right? So you can search a topic, find a video, and potentially find an influencer and subscribe. Well, there isn't that capability on Snapchat at all. Like literally, there's no way. You have to grow your influence outside of Snapchat and do a call to action. But this is what I want to do. I want to bring you through why Snapchat, and then a couple things to consider, okay? First couple things I want to talk about why Snapchat. Obviously, attention is there, specifically a young demographic. So a young audience is there. And Sean and I were talking about some stats. 70% of Snapchat users are under 25. Why that's significant to me is because I've been doing this for 8 years. I always have to find the newest platforms and kind of learn it very quickly so that it becomes relevant and I can utilize it to continue growing our influence for what my wife and I do on YouTube, right? And it's always been the case that young friends of mine, kids I used to mentor at the YMCA, are the ones always telling me what those platforms are. So when I see those kind of stats where there's a lot of kids, let's be honest, kids, young teens, teenagers, young adults using Snapchat, I'm like, I'm there, okay? Every single time I hear of a platform, even like Musical.ly, the newest one, I'll just sign up for it. I won't get like immediately into it, but like Snapchat, I am in it because the youth are using it. But more importantly, people my age are using it. In fact, everybody's signing up and just kind of dinking around on it and looking at it. So that's so important. The attention is there. Second thing that is so significant about Snapchat, no distractions, 100% complete attention. Now, they did just start rolling out some ads, which I know some of you guys probably have seen, but compared to other places, almost no distractions. When you tap on somebody's story, right? So like when you're going to Snapchat, if you're not familiar, you can actually tap on somebody's story and see their story. There's no distractions. Outside of the periodic ad, which is very rare even now, you don't have like suggested videos like you do on YouTube. You don't have like things popping up. You're just purely focused on that person's content. That is huge, right? That attention. I think that's one of the appeals of Snapchat. Second thing is, or the third thing is very engaging because people are having their 100% attention on your content. They are very engaged, right? They're not looking other places. And in fact, because Snapchat has been so focused on keeping it 100% mobile, right? They're not like on a desktop. They have to look at it on their phone. The only thing that would distract them is if there was like a push notification or someone sends a text or someone calls. Like literally, that's the only thing that would distract you because of the way the user interface is. Now, Sean, do you have anything to add to some of these things of why I think Snapchat is so significant?
Yeah, I mean, keep going in just a second, but I just want to jump in to our tribe watching, and thanks so much for joining us here live or on the rebroadcast. And it's been interesting. So as we look through, we asked this question, and let us know in the live chat or in the YouTube comments once those appear. What do you like, Snapchat or Instagram, and why do you like it? Most of you are voting Snapchat. And so Nina saying, Snapchat, Giovanni's saying prefer Snapchat. So it's kind of interesting. And obviously we're talking about Snapchat versus Instagram stories, not just Instagram for pictures, because it's definitely a different thing. And we're also going to be getting into Q&A, and there's been some great questions coming in about how to use Snapchat to build certain brands and what kind of strategies. So we'll do that in just a second. But if you're just joining us, can you share this and hit the like button? Let us know that you can hear us loud and clear, and keep voting on and sharing some of your feedback on Snapchat versus Instagram stories.
Boom. So a couple things we're going to talk about before we get into how to use Snapchat to build your influence, income, and impact. One of the things specifically you need to consider is this. There is no discoverability. I talked about that. What that means is like there's no way for people to find you on Snapchat other than if you tell them who you are outside of Snapchat, right? That's a big deal because on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, even Facebook, there's ways for people to type things in. So for example, like if they type in a certain hashtag on Instagram, I always use gardening, right? They're gonna find all the posts with the gardening on it. And then they're gonna see the creator that created that post and maybe dig a little deeper. And maybe you think there's enough great content there where you'll follow that person on Instagram. Well, on Snapchat, that doesn't happen. That process doesn't happen. Now, you would think that's a negative thing. I actually think that's a great thing because this is your opportunity right now before they make that happen to hack the system, right? And the way you do that is what we're going to be talking about today, but consider that. There's no discoverability. So you're going to have to do all of your influence building outside of the platform. A second thing to consider is videos are not archived, okay? I know that Snapchat users maybe don't even consider it video. It's almost just like a snap because they're like only 10 seconds. But when you put it up onto your story, that goes away after 24 hours, okay? Unlike YouTube, this is one of the reasons why, again, just going off topic, why Sean and I love YouTube is because your videos are archived forever. They potentially could rank for search forever. They're what we call evergreen content. On Snapchat, not the case. Again, that was part of the appeal, right? Like in the beginning of Snapchat when it was, a little taboo to use it or like there's only certain people using it for certain things, they liked the fact that it disappeared after 24 hours. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, but I think that when you used to snap and someone viewed it, it just kind of disappeared. You can never look at it again, right?
Yeah, to replay it.
Yeah, to replay it. Now you can replay it, right? So it's archived, but only for 24 hours. That's a big deal because a lot of people, that's one of the reasons why people don't want to spend time on Snapchat, right? So I wanted to acknowledge that and we'll talk about that later. Third thing to consider is it's not too late. A lot of people are thinking like, oh, you know what? Snapchat, there's already people getting famous on it. Maybe there's other platforms, Facebook, it has a resurgence, Instagram stories. I really feel there's a huge opportunity on Snapchat. In fact, that's the reason why not only I'm passionate about Snapchat, but also we're doing this broadcast because I think there's a huge opportunity because Snapchat is always kind of tweaking and improving without like endangering the structure, the foundation of what makes Snapchat amazing. So I've noticed that. And they always keep you coming, especially like with these filters, with these different functions. Another game changer, we'll talk more about it. Sean, I don't know if you got my text the other day, but you can actually upload pictures to your story now.
Yeah, like the whole memories function and go in there and yep.
So again, that could be a whole nother discussion on whether that's a good or bad thing. But the point being is they're always doing things to keep your attention and to improve Snapchat in general, right? Another thing too, people always talk about is like there's no monetization, right? How do I make money from Snapchat? Well, we don't talk about what we talk about on video influencers specific to YouTube for monetization as the #1 source of income, okay? Because to be able to get income that would be sustainable for the average living, it takes a lot of views. Well, same thing on Snapchat, right? Like even if they did create ads that content creators could share in that income, it would probably take a lot of Snapchat views. We like to suggest using platforms to enhance what you're doing on YouTube, first off, but secondly, just enhance whatever you're doing in general. And that's what we're going to be talking about, like how to use Snapchat to do exactly that. Grow your influence, grow your income, and make an impact with online videos, but specifically Snapchat. Sean, what are people saying right now?
There's a lot of people that are giving us some feedback. Someone saying, is there a way of doing SEO on Snapchat? There isn't. There's not really a searchability function there. people saying, some really great questions that we can get. We'll get to Q&A after we go through some of these tips that we have. But, great questions like, why even try to move your audience over there? Because it does take, Justin asked this, mentioning somebody else's vlog, like you have to put effort to get people to go there. And so these are all really, really great questions. And there, of course, are pros and cons to both of them. But yeah, we want to get into, tips for actually growing your Snapchat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just reference what you just said about why we want to transfer our viewers to Snapchat. The point is they're already there. Okay. Now, some of you might not be relevant. Some of you is like, maybe they just aren't Snapchat users, your followers, right? But I would argue that a lot of people are already there, including someone like my wife, right? Who supposedly says she doesn't use it very much, but is on there at least once a day, okay? So that's a great thing about Snapchat too. Once you get it, it's so easy to use. It's so quick. In fact, Sean, I'll use you as an example. For years, I've been saying to Sean, dude, and this is like before Casey was around, it's like, dude, if you did vlogs with your like editing skills, they'd be like dope. But never did it for years because, busy building other things. But Sean, tell me, how much more vlogging type of footage have you created on Snapchat because of how easy it is to use?
Yeah, 100% more. And that actually is a huge benefit, because I think sometimes, and this is probably great for video influencers, maybe you have a core channel and you've considered, should you start vlogging? Well, vlogging can be a huge weight on you if you shoot all day and then you need to edit at night or the next morning. And the cool benefit about Snapchat or even Instagram stories is now you do have, some people use it that way. I think it's a great way to use it. It's a daily vlog platform. Sometimes they snap a little bit longer on their stories, and you can even export those if you want. But yeah, 100%, it gave me a chance to do that without having to edit more stuff, which I just didn't have the time to do to start a vlog.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know for a fact, because I follow Sean, how much more. And this is what's so awesome about it too. Like, some people, again, would like maybe question, like, should you use it to produce like highly produced content? Even Sean and I, we have these little buttons where you can actually record from a distance. Sean has a whole video on that. But I actually think there's no rules. In fact, the cooler you can make it, the better. YouTube used to have rules, or it had to be super casual. Now you got people like Casey Neistat, like hanging off a ladder off of a helicopter with like a 3D camera, doing some epic videos, right? Like, again, like don't limit yourself what you can do because of what the masses say or what certain people say. Like, use it how you want to use it, right? In fact, if you use it in a way that no one else is, that's how you get big. And that's one of the reasons why I like these Snapchat artists. So you guys know, if you use Snapchat, you can actually draw pictures, right? Or you can do like little goofy colors and stuff like that. Well, there's like legit artists, our friend John Mediana, right? That do like a beautiful art. When I say beautiful art, like it's not like the Mona Lisa or anything like that, but I've seen some stuff that's pretty impressive, especially with like tablets having the pen, and I know that Apple offers it. It's pretty awesome. Sean is showing it right now. Is this on the screen, Sean?
Yeah, that's just some how crazy some of the Snapchat art is, and that's actually some of the accounts that get the biggest when people start doing art like that.
Yeah, and that's been going on for a couple of years now. And I'll tell you, like, there's been a lot of opportunities with some of these artists who have gotten sponsored by big time companies, right? And again, we always talk about sponsorships and even just ads in general. It's not like going to be for the masses. It's not going to be for everybody. But the reason it's important to notice is because when there is money being paid to creators on Snapchat for their content, it's kind of like a top-down thing, a trickle-down thing. There's going to continue to be more opportunities. I know for my wife and I, we actually have a lot of sponsorships on YouTube. We've gotten sponsorships on Snapchat. So again, that's another reason why I'm so like adamant on doing this broadcast, because I know if we're getting these opportunities and we're not known as Snapchatters, I know other people will get opportunities too. But the point being, there's enough attention there, right? There's enough engagement. In fact, there's a ton of engagement in there that there is value for just about anybody, including yourself. If you have your own business or you have your own channel, you're trying to build influence. But like what Sean was saying about the vlogs, I think there's just so many more vloggers on Snapchat than there is YouTube, because it's so much easier, and the connection, right? The deep connection that you create. So anyways, that's my long rant referencing that. Sean, is there anything you want to get into before I go into how to use this?
Absolutely. So Benji's going to transition here and he's got a few tips. And just to kind of set the context, I thought why I feel inspired to give a few actionable things too for talking about how to grow your Snapchat and contextually. One of the things that we'll go actually through these 7 points. So get ready if you want to grab these. But hey, can you hit the like button if you're getting value out of this? Can you share it? We're going to check the updates to see what people are voting for here. Again, this is kind of an impromptu poll, but one of the things to pay attention, grab a hold of this, right? This is a real poll. Obviously, it's skewed based on my followers. It's based on our own demographic. But sometimes you have to let even your personal opinion go, I think. And even Benji was kind of talking to me, like your personal preference sometimes should, be secondary to real opportunity and real facts. So just because you might be like, I don't know if I understand it, I don't know if people are going to be there, doesn't mean it can't be massively valuable for you and that you shouldn't figure it out. And what people are saying, at least we're hearing from you, the video influencers, we're seeing in the comments, is that you love Snapchat. There's a certain fun to it. There's a vibe to it, even better than Instagram stories. There's value to both. But, maybe you're on the fence. And I would really study the data even more than this to say, hey, if this has a lot of upside for your brand, your YouTube channel, things like that, it'd be worth investing in. So if you're just joining us, we're talking about Snapchat, how to get followers. Hit the like button, share this broadcast with somebody who needs to see it. And Benji's got some tips, and we'll be going back and forth to share how to get some followers now and grow your Snapchat.
Boom. And you know what I love about what we're going to talk about, these 7 tips, is it's almost all the same. Okay. Like there is definitely some things specific to the platform, but it starts out the same as any other platform. The number one way to grow your influence is add value. Okay. So that's so important because a lot of people, same thing on YouTube, they'll just throw up a video and just hope the world watches it, right? I was watching Miranda Singh's new Netflix special, and her first episode is putting up a video that she thinks is so great, and she sits and watches the computer and 0 views for like an hour or something like that, right? I love that example because it's the same thing on Snapchat. Don't just assume because you throw it up there, especially with no discoverability, that someone is going to watch it. The point is you add value. Give people a reason to want to go over to their Snapchat and follow you, right? It's the same as YouTube. So if you've already got an influence, say you've already gotten started, you've got a channel, you've got subscribers, continue to add that value to enhance what you're doing on YouTube on Snapchat. Great example is gardening, right? Like there's people that do gardening videos on YouTube, and they're maybe putting up 2 or 3 videos in a week. Well, Snapchat is your opportunity to go in deeper, right? Like maybe every morning what you do is you do an update on your tomato plant. Literally, I just gave you an example of how to use Snapchat to enhance what you're doing on YouTube. And because people, I would say, are going to Snapchat every day, at least checking, just give people the opportunity that are really into gardening an opportunity to get that snap, right? To gain that value. So value is always first. A couple examples of that is, Sean and I were talking, some of the first Snapchat influencers or celebrities are entertainers. I mean, is it Khalid or Khalid, Sean?
DJ Khaled.
Khaled, there you go. DJ Khaled, right? Entertainers, right? That are entertaining you, capturing your attention. Obviously, he's an A-list celebrity, but there's plenty of other people like comedians that are doing funny things and getting followers because they're just creating a laugh, that value. Information or utility influencers. So say your snaps, or like for me, what I've done is when I'm cooking like an omelet, like I did this yesterday, go to Benjamin TV, my Snapchat, you'll see this. When I'm cooking an omelet, I'll actually show you the process of cooking an omelet, right? Of cooking something so that you can learn within like sometimes like 30 seconds of snaps how to cook an omelet. So that's information, that's utility, inspiration, right? I'd say Gary Vaynerchuk is a great example of this. He's already inspiring people with his epic daily V videos. His Ask Gary V videos are informative, but with his Snapchat, he goes deeper. Sometimes he gets like more intimate. He's like really talking to the camera, and they're only 10 seconds long, right? They don't have to be crazy long, but the point is adding value, continuing to add value to enhance what you're doing. And then I think the most important part in terms of adding value that Snapchat has created is the connection, the deeper connection. So after the videos are uploaded on YouTube, after you post up content on Facebook or Instagram, Snapchat gives you the opportunity, maybe not for every one of your viewers, but the hardcore ones, to go in real deep. And I always say the basis of success on YouTube is trust. But to gain trust, you have to build the relationship. To build the relationship, you have to have the connection, and you have to go deep. That's why daily vloggers become some of the most famous people and have the craziest fans, because of the daily connection they make. And Snapchat is the easiest way to do that. Sean, anything you want to add here?
Definitely. Somebody asked a question. We will get to Q&A in a while, so post some questions. But they said, how can Snapchat help you grow your YouTube channel? And one thought is that it's probably not going to help you actually grow your YouTube channel in terms of numbers, but it's going to help you grow your community in terms of depth. So what Benji just said, as far as connection, now your YouTube video might be 5 minutes and it might just kind of teach some content and be really polished. But now you give a chance for people to connect with you behind the scenes, to see into your life, and to even potentially message back and forth with them. And we'll get into some of those things. But as far as on adding value, just to kind of give maybe some examples, is think about ways you can stand out. And what I mean by that is, what we talked about this remote, think about ways you could stand out creatively, right? So we started doing these wireless things. And Snapchat gives you an opportunity to be very, very creative on your channel. So sometimes Benji and I are both runners, we'll mess around with these ideas. We share this right here. So you could think about, okay, how could I really create something that will grab people's attention, stand out, and be different from the norm? And whenever you watch video influencers, we want to give you actionable, practical next steps for you to do. And so right now, for this number one point that Benji just shared, as far as adding value, I want you to actually try to write down your value proposition, or at least think about it. And here's what I mean. Sometimes I see a lot of people be kind of haphazard on Snapchat. Then sure, you could get on there, you can experiment. But what we want you to do is write down your value proposition. Why are you using it? And why should people follow you? So for instance, I was just looking at Shalene Johnson, and she said, hey, go over to my Snapchat right now she does hacks. And she said, for some travel hacks. Benji, one of the things he's doing is literally to add value, go so you can learn how to cook an omelet. So I think it's important to have a point of your Snapchat. Is it just a vlog behind the scenes? You're like, this my Snapchat, the value proposition. If someone asks you, why should I follow you on Snapchat? You should have an answer. So it is this value proposition of getting to know you deeper. Or if you want daily, and that's the best people that I see really adding value, they say, I do daily tips of how to get better lighting and what cameras to use. My friend Icy Productions always does production tips. So she does those daily. That's a value proposition. So many people are they're just scattered. They don't even know what they're doing. They just kind of experiment, which is fine. But if you really want to growth hack your Snapchat, have an intentional reason, call it a value proposition. So you could say, you should follow me on Snapchat for daily book reviews. You should follow me on Snapchat for quick makeup hacks. And then really build up a brand around that. I snuck a second point in here, Benji, and so I'll hit that and kick it back to you. So number one was always add value. Number two, I'm passionate about this. I don't always actually do it, but this is a big deal on both platforms. It's called a story for a reason, because it's supposed to be a story. And in simple terms, a story has a beginning, middle, and end. So when Benji starts and he says, I'm about to do an omelet, that's the intro, then he does the middle, And then he does the end, and you land the plane and you complete a story. A lot of people on Snapchat, they're not doing stories. All of a sudden you're going through and there's like one picture in their feed. And you're like, what is the context of this? That's not a very good story. Like, you're just like, I don't even know where you are. I don't like, at least it probably takes at least 3 snaps to tell a story, because you're like, hey guys, I want to show you my new shirt. That's the beginning of the story. Video showing the shirt. That was my new shirt. The story is over, but at least you told a story. So in addition to the value proposition, I think we need to see more like completed thoughts kind of on Snapchat. Hey guys, I'm going to give you a quick tour of this house. Real estate agents in some sectors and demographics are actually having success using Snapchat even to close deals, but they're using it in a very intentional and strategic way. So number 1, add value. Number 2, it's called a story for a reason. And stories have a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, and I would add to that you could tell a story within a 10-second snap, but you have to be intentional about it. So the reason I bring that up is my wife. She doesn't create like full-length stories like me or Sean, where like I'm cooking, I'm showing the ingredients, and I'm showing how I cook it, and then the final product. Sometimes hers are only 10 seconds long, but it's an entertaining 10 seconds, right? So it's like the girls are playing, and then they'll be laughing, and then that's it. It's entertaining. It is enough of a little mini story. But I would also say too, like, consider this. If you're already an influencer, you've already got an influence, you can kind of get away with it. Like if you're really trying to build your influence on Snapchat, maybe you don't have a huge influence yet. Yeah, you're going to have to do a little extra, right? So these are some of the hacks that Sean and I are talking about. The tip number 3 is grow your influence off platform. I've said it like probably 3 times now. There's no way to get discovered within Snapchat at this moment. So you have to use your other platforms. Now, there's other ways to do it too. Like in the beginning of Snapchat, people were like, well, how do I find these Snapchat artists? There was websites that were saying the top 10 Snapchat artists, right? Get into those websites, like start commenting on blogs. I actually have an actual 1, 2, 3 step to be able to do this. We always say, find your tribe, find your small group of like-minded people on social media. So that's step number 1. Go to Instagram or go to Twitter or Facebook. Find the tribe of people that you want to connect with or you would like to gain an influence from, right? Second, add value to those people. So when people are asking questions, answer their questions, right? When people are commenting, reply to their comment. Continue to add value whatever way you can. And then the third thing is call to action. Of course, on your YouTube videos, tell people, hey, I've got a Snapchat. If you guys love these gardening videos and you want to see what I do in the morning or my morning routine in my garden, go follow me on Snapchat. You do have to have a call to action. But the call to action has to come after you've already added value, right? So if you're an influencer, you're already doing it. You're adding value. But if you have no influence yet, don't expect people are just going to follow you on Snapchat. That just why? Ask yourself this. If some random stranger says, hey, sir, could you please follow me on Snapchat? My name is Benjamin TV, and gave them no context, added no value, how motivated would you be to follow him, right? Sean, anything you want to add before I go to step number 4?
Absolutely on growing your platform super practically. You've probably seen you can do things. You have to decide if you want to go all in on this. And if you want to go all in, put some serious effort into growing your Snapchat and different things you could do. You can make your Facebook image or any of your social media images your Snapchat code. Right. And so then that could become your profile picture for a while. You could do that on your Twitter. You could make your cover image hey, follow me on Snapchat. And when we actually have a great interview with the Skinny Confidential on Video Influencers channel talking about Snapchat. And they talked about, they just went all in. They put it everywhere. They put it in their Instagram bio. They put it in their email signature. So if it becomes a place where you're like, I want my audience to know, I mean, whether that's 1 person, 5 people, 500 people, or 5 million, letting them know. And then that's value. Like, hey, follow me on Snapchat for daily behind the scenes. It could be as simple as that. And then permeating that on your other platforms, your social media bios, email signatures. That's going to be the way you kind of growth hack and bring awareness to the fact of what you're doing on Snapchat.
Boom. All right, we'll go right into it because we've been talking about this for a long time. I want to actually add value to you guys. Tip number 4 is upload consistently. This is so important, like even more important than like any other platform, because the nature of Snapchat, your stuff disappears after 24 hours, right? And this is actually a huge hack because the user interface or the way that Snapchat looks is so simple. When you go into it and you look at people's content, whatever was uploaded latest gets to the top of the feed, period. That's just how it is, right? So uploading consistently, at least once a day, is probably important if you really want to work Snapchat. You really want to work it. I would suggest uploading something once every hour. Now, that might be overkill for some people, right? Because you're already working. Maybe you're busy. Maybe you actually have a life outside of Snapchat, or you've got a business you're running or whatever. So this is not for everybody. But if you have the time and you really want to work Snapchat, build that connection, to build that relationship, to build that trust, right? Upload once an hour, for the simple fact that the latest thing that gets uploaded to Snapchat, if they're following you, get to the top of the feed. Sean, anything you want to say on this? Because this is like a huge deal, because your content isn't archived. It's not saved and brought, it's not like living after 24 hours. Anything you want to add to this?
I agree. I think it's just acknowledging that it is a struggle. You have to be real intentional, and you have to kind of, I think at some point, this is kind of like just a like life principle, right? You have to kind of decide, why do something halfway? What's your bandwidth? But if you're going to do something, do it right. And what Benji's sharing is totally correct. If you get rewarded for more consistent, of course you get rewarded if you're more quality. Even viewers, once they see if you add value and if you're entertaining, then they'll want to see you more. And then if you're not, so if you can be consistent, then that is going to be huge, 100%.
Boom. So quickly going into tip number 5, which is user behavior. We always bring this up, or at least I do, when talking about other platforms. You have to understand, what is the user behavior on that platform. And on Snapchat specifically, I know this because not only do I do it, but I see other people doing it. People are snapping through quickly, right? They want to get this content quickly. So even though you do have 10 seconds, and there's a little note to you too, Sean, right? Even though you have 10 seconds, and I love watching your snaps, sometimes I'm only watching like the first 1 to 2 seconds.
And then you're tapping it, and then you skip it.
You just skip it, right? So that's why it's so important, like just like YouTube, but even more so like on steroids, you have to capture that attention right away. Also, going back to Sean's point, telling a story. If you tell great stories, people are willing to wait more than 2 or 3 seconds. It's crazy that I'm even saying that, right? But this is the thing, like in the world of ADD and quickness, Snapchat is like the king of it. People, like kids, just like snapping. It's almost like they're playing a video game, right? They're just looking for images. It's almost like they can capture 20 snaps in literally, I don't know, 4 or 5 seconds. And that's why that first image is so important, right? An image telling a story. Sometimes I actually create my Snapchat stories on this fact that people might only see the first second. I don't know if you know that, Sean, right? But literally, like, I will make sure the first image that they see during that, even a 10-second, will still tell a story. If you go to my Snapchat when I'm doing cooking, you'll notice this. And I'll even put text so that some people are so quick to be able to read that they can snap through. Like I'll do 10-second snaps, right? And do like 5 of them. So that's 50 seconds of snap, but knowing they could go through it in literally 3 to 4 seconds. And I have to be able to tell that story. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think that's just really smart. That's almost like a thumbnail, like you're trying to hook their attention in the first second. I do have a really practical a tip to kind of go back a little bit, but it hit me recently. And again, I was watching Chalene Johnson, who's got a great Snapchat. And this whole thing that like on Snapchat, remember that a story is a story. And one of the things that to keep in mind is that I think there's also some context where people are not skipping. So what happens now on Snapchat is you can let it autoplay, and it'll also autoplay through your entire feed, and then you can skip entire people. So Chalene it's a great idea. She did she did her daily routine, And she told at the beginning of the day that she was going to do her daily routine. And then she hooked me. And it was long, but it was like super content packed. It was like you do your, good angles, practical Snapchat stuff, but then going through tips. And it was a complete like session. And I was making dinner. I set my phone down. I had Bluetooth headphones in, and I was consuming that content. And so we'd love to hear from you in the comments. What is your Snapchat behavior? Do you skip a lot? Have you been watching multiple stories in a row? Are you watching longer stories? I'm curious because that's interesting. I noticed my own behavior doing that. And I actually like that because I wanted to watch something of substance. She was giving me content. Then, then I get interrupted. No disrespect to my friends, but then my friend posts a picture of a horse, and that's all they post that day. Then we skip to somebody else. They have 2 snaps, and it's like, it's a pretty day. And, but like, she gives content. It was a story. There was value. I was fascinated by what does she do every day. And then she was going through methodically with a start and with an end point. And that was auto playing. I also was not, my hands were busy cooking. So I wasn't going to be skipping. I was letting Snapchat just feed me all of that content.
Great. I didn't even know. This is like how new Snapchat is still to me. I didn't even know you could tag people on a story. So like always new things I'm learning, right?
Let me say that. Let me just say, we'll talk about the do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
Can I just rant here? And Amy Schmidtmeyer has a great video about this.
Yeah.
But one thing that if you follow me on Snapchat, please stop doing this. And if you follow anybody else on Snapchat, we probably should have led with this. We should have made the whole entire video about this. So if you go to your messages, you get pinged when you get a message. If you turn off notifications, then you don't see that. But nevertheless, these are all my messages, and I won't show you their names. So sometimes when I get a message, I'm like, cool, somebody messaged me. And side note, and we can get into this, the fact that you can personally connect with people on Snapchat is super powerful. You can even send them videos. That can build a lot of depth with your tribe. But if we come back to that, what happens though, then I open it up, and what they did was they didn't just add their snap to their story. They checked my name. I'm offended. Never do that again. Like, because what it is then I get in and I'm like, I want them to be saying, hey, Sean, I've got a question for you. Or, hey, da, 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 da. And it's just like, here I am. I'm cooking bacon. My kids, like, and I'm like, dude, what is it? Because you just got tagged and put in their story.
You just got spammed.
Completely you got spammed. Stop doing that. If you do that on Snapchat, it's wrong. It's not, it's an injustice. It's not right. It's not how the platform was intended. The messaging feature was meant to message people. Now, the one caveat is if you do a snap that mentions someone, hey, by the way, I was just thinking about people I'm grateful for today. And maybe that's a part of your story. That's the only exception, right? That's not what messaging for. Messaging is to be personal. So anyway, sorry. Let's keep going on the tips, Benji.
Yeah. I'll get right to the next tip quickly. But the last thing I'll say about that is I think it goes with any platform, right? Like, don't abuse the platform, right? Don't abuse people's attention. The reason Snapchat is so successful is because it's grabbing people's attention, but respecting it. Now, users might not, like obviously Sean's friends, but like Snapchat has really protected that screen, right? Like they're not putting these ads. I know they're putting some ads now, right? But they haven't like cluttered it all up with stuff that you don't want to see. So just keep that in mind. Tip number 6, save good stories. And I just want to give a shout out to Chase and Jess. They mentioned you can only save 20 snaps or less when it comes to saving a story. But there is a function on Snapchat. We're not going to get into how to do this, but like you can actually save your whole story. Sean and I in the beginning, we were actually doing this almost daily and uploading it to Facebook. We both don't do that very often. But if you have a great story, save it and upload it. In fact, I've been saying for a while now that I think YouTubers who don't want to do all the work to create a vlog, they should save their whole snap story and then upload that to YouTube. Now, again, there could be some arguments of why you should or shouldn't do it, but saving a story, like sometimes I'll save just like 3 snaps together and then upload that to Facebook. What I do is I use that as a way to promote my Snapchat. Again, there's no way to get discovered in Snapchat, so you have to use other platforms. So what I'll do is, even one snap, I'll just save it, right, as a little video and I'll upload it to Twitter and then do a call to action. But saving good stories is definitely a tip I would suggest, because that's your way of archiving, saving the videos. What YouTube already does for you, you can do for yourself on Snapchat.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, let's land the plane and do some Q&A to the top of the hour.
Should we go into tip number 7 and 8 first, or what?
Yeah, slam them out, hit them, and then we'll hit
Q&A. I'm just gonna slam these out real quick. Tip number 7: there's no rules, you guys. Okay, if you followed all the rules that people had for YouTube years ago, you wouldn't be a Casey Neistat, right? You wouldn't be a Shay Carl. You wouldn't be all these amazing people, or the thousands of other YouTubers that we might not know about that are just crushing it. So there's no rules. Just use it, be unique on it, communicate the way you want to. And remember, always ask yourself, how am I adding value to people, right? Tip number 8 is engage with people directly. What's so powerful about Snapchat is the only way to engage is directly. There's no way to comment. You can't like somebody's Snapchats. You can literally only look at someone's Snapchat. You can take a screenshot, but the only way to engage is directly. That is so powerful, right? And just like what Sean and I do sometimes on Twitter, which is respond with a video on somebody's like Twitter response. I think if you do that once in a while, you're going to go so deep. I know people like Gary Vaynerchuk are doing it. And when someone like Gary Vaynerchuk does that and engages you directly like that, it's almost like a priceless moment. Now, even if you're not a Gary Vaynerchuk, you have a smaller tribe, it's still going to be just as powerful for those people, right, that follow you because you're adding value and you take that time to do that. So that's really all my tips for Snapchat, how to grow your influence, income, and impact with Snapchat video.
Awesome. Let's jump into some Q&A. Lori does say, sometimes people send me dirty messages. What should I do as far as messaging? My good friend and mentor, Shalene Johnson, she actually just says she'll never open pictures or videos. So, unless they're going to send you dirty words, that allows you to just talk to people. So that's kind of a way, so that way she could still engage and vibe with her tribe by protecting her eyes from things that could come through, especially as a woman. And I know that Skinny Confidential talks about that too. People send the DPs. If you know what a DP is, that's nasty. And I can't even imagine sending that to somebody that you don't even really know, but it happens, right? So you could just read the text images. Yeah. And if you got a question, hit us up in the YouTube live feed, or once this is an archive broadcast, post in the YouTube comments and we'll kind of come back through and try to do our best to help out.
Absolutely. I'll take another question from you, me, and Baby Makes 3. I'm lost on Snap. I was too, and almost every other person that's been using things like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, right? Like, there is a logical way to use it. Well, guess what? Snapchat's the new logic. It's the new logical way for the new youth, right? And it's funny, kids use it and they immediately know how to use it, right? And I won't go into how to use it. I'll just tell you, there's plenty of videos. In fact, I think Sean even has a video about Snapchat. But I will, I would say go on YouTube and just to YouTube it. But more so, just go and start using it. Once you figure it out, it's super easy, right? And you don't have to know how to use all the bells and whistles. I don't even know how to tag people really, right? So you just need to know how to do the basic, which is snap. Upload it to your story, right? And the second one is watch other people's Snapchats if that's what you want to do. So that would be my suggestion for anybody that is lost. And I mainly wanted to answer that because I can relate to you. I'm still a little lost sometimes. And in the beginning, I had no clue. I actually had to have my younger cousin show me how to do it. So.
Yeah, and I think we lost some questions. I'm looking at the live feed. I don't know how far back I can scroll. So repost some questions. We'll be on for a few more minutes. One other thing that I think is really powerful is to learn Snapchat is, again, to just do it, to just jump in and do it. But another thing, if you can, the YouTube videos will help. But I'll tell you, I was afraid and intimidated to get into it at first because it seemed kind of overwhelming. And if you can find someone, so who in your life is using it? Take them, in this case, it was Chick-fil-A. And so I'm in Orange County, and Dan Fernandez I go, dude, can you just coach me on Snapchat? So we're eating chicken sandwiches, and we took it, it took like 30 minutes, but by the time I was done, I was like, okay, simple. I just had somebody literally walk me through it. So there's probably maybe somebody that's, if you're a bit of an older person like us, then there's maybe a younger person that's using it, and you can just get such a crash course, getting your hands on and break through that intimidation, because what you discover on the other side is it's one of the most fun platforms and creative platforms. And once you've kind of broken that ice, then you can just dive right in.
Yeah, and the last question I'm going to answer today is Life with Inami says, I don't have enough money to start a good YouTube video. What kind of editing programs to use? Cameras. We talk about this all the time because we say, hey, just start using your phone, right? We actually have a video about what's the best vlogging cameras, and the first thing we talk about isn't even a camera, it's your phone and this little doohickey right here. You'll have to watch the video. But to address what you said about I don't have enough money for YouTube videos and what editing programs, on this topic, you can use Snapchat as your editing software, okay? Now, YouTube actually has a great app called YouTube Capture. And in fact, inside of the YouTube app, you can actually create videos. You can actually like do different segments and stuff like that. Why I love Snapchat as an editing software. I don't know if you even thought about this, Sean, but it's pretty significant because I bet there's kids doing it. That you can use these filters. There's filters that put like masks on your face, right? There's all these little emojis you can use. I mean, a ton of emojis. You can do drawings. You can do different kinds of like color enhancement, speed up, slow down. There's a ton of stuff you can do. It's literally, if you think about it, if you take away all the rage of Snapchat and just look at it, it's just like an editing software, a real-time editing software. If you turned your if you turn your camera, like, what do you call it, like panoramic or whatever, sideways, like horizontal like this, you can actually create legit videos and then upload them. Now, I will say, just a little disclosure, it's not going to be the highest quality, okay? But it's a start. And the point is this, there's a ton of ways to edit footage with just your phone. You don't need a computer, right? And in fact, you don't even need a camera. You can just use your phone for everything. It's all about how you work it, right? This is what I say. How you work it is how it's gonna work for you. So don't be limited by funds or the lack of money or a camera or even a computer. There's so many tools out there, and you'd be amazed. Like one of my favorite people right now in the world is this guy named Austin Haw. He shoots video with us on Video Influencers. Since the beginning of me working with him, he has used every free app out there known to man to create content, right? In fact, like his first rig to hold the camera to tape videos for me on YouTube, he made out of PVC pipe. Something that people probably would pay like $100 to $200. He probably did it with $15 and PVC pipe. So like where there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely. So we'll take this to the top of the hour. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Can you hit the like button if you got value out of this on YouTube? Let us know in the YouTube comments, which appear after this broadcast goes live. If you have any questions, where you're watching from, and what your favorite platform is. Why do you like Snapchat? Why do you like Instagram stories? What are you going to use in the future? And we'll take a couple more questions. Gio says, how should a photographer like myself be using Snapchat? Here's my biggest tip for Gio, plus for just the video influencers tribe in general, is I think, again, define your target audience. Define your target audience. Now, there might be a lot of people that mix in that aren't part of your target audience, but having clarity on that, this is true for YouTube, but definitely true for anywhere, is going to help you make better content to serve your audience. So maybe like your mom watches and maybe your friends watch, and there's that. But what I would say this, because you're saying how should a photographer like myself use Snapchat, you have two options. In my opinion, obviously you have hundreds of options, but are you going to help other photographers? In that case, it might be photography tips. Camera setting, how to keep your camera dry if you're doing landscape photography and you're doing this, and maybe some enthusiasts would follow that. Or are you going to be showcasing the beauty and the creativity of the photography itself? They don't care about how to use a camera. They just want to kind of look at beautiful pictures and sort of see your life. But that's two different groups of people. One is like photography professionals and aspiring photographers. And one is general people you want to kind of entertain and inspire with photography. Makes sense? And so same thing would be for like YouTube would be true too. You could have a photography tips channel, or you could have a behind the scenes of like the beauty that a landscape photographer sees. Nobody cares about the tips. They want to see like, man, these locations, all this kind of stuff. And so then I would then hack and build your Snapchat consistently doing that to show behind the scenes of a real photographer shooting wherever you live, you know, and things like that. I want to hit one other question here. Kira Lee asks, I have one question. I have quite a few followers on Instagram, but most of them are men. How do I get more female followers? I think that's going to be completely predicated on your content. And so I jumped onto your Instagram, for example, and saw that you have a lot of content that I think would be attractive to men. And so I think it'd then just be reverse engineering, again, maybe your target audience. So if you're saying your target audience is female followers, my question to you would be why? And maybe because your core content is, recently I was coaching somebody that wants to inspire female entrepreneurs. So clearly, if she was being followed by a lot of males, like she'd be not accomplishing her vision because she's trying to teach female entrepreneurs. So I think a content shift is what attracts your audience. And I'll just say this last thing, and Benji, you probably have time for one more question on your end, is content builds your brand over time. So one of the best ways to build a brand is not by creating a cool Facebook cover image or having a cool website, to be honest. One of the best ways to build a brand is content. So if you put out weekly videos with tips for female entrepreneurs, 52 weeks later, you're going to pretty much be known as like the person who shares tips for female entrepreneurs because of a consistency of building a body of work of content. If you consistently put out inspiring drone aerial footage snippets on Snapchat or Instagram, then after a year, you'd be like, well, dude, he's like the drone footage guy. Man, she's the drone footage girl. And it's always cool shots. That builds your brand. And then you become that. And if you have a great website that says, I'm the best drone footage person, but you don't put out any content, you would never build that brand and no one would associate you with that. You could say what you are all the time. So as far as the tips then would then just be to reverse engineer, who is your target audience? If females are kind of part of that, then what content do they like? What pictures do they like? What kind of video clips would they want? What would they want to see? What are they after? What, you're a DJ, I saw that. You know, what kind of music would they want to hear maybe? Or what kind of hacks about getting into clubs? Or, you know, and just completely reverse engineering your strategy for your target audience.
Boom. Yeah, I'll take one more question. I do have to get going. However, I just want to say thank you to everybody watching. I know this is a little bit different because we're not talking about YouTube. We're talking about Snapchat, and not everybody's into it, even though I'd say argue, yes, they are based on the Twitter poll. But this is what I'll last say, because it'll be based on this question, okay? Nicole asks, when starting a video, should I do an intro about yourself and what your channel is about, or just jump into the makeup tutorials? I would suggest this: do whatever you think you want to do, whatever your viewers want to see. And if that's telling a story that has an intro in every single one of your Snap stories, do it, right? If it works for you. I personally don't think it's necessary because it's a little bit different than YouTube, right? The user behavior is going to be different. The people that go to you on Snapchat probably already know who you are because they're not like finding you through organic search, right? They're finding you because you did a call to action or they heard. So like there's a little bit of context already there, but I would say there's no rules to this, right? I think that Snapchat has so much more growth potential that you could ask yourself this: what happens when they do create discoverability? What happens when things are archived? I don't know if either one of those things will ever happen, but the point is this: like in the early days of YouTube, I was talking to Sean about this. This is the reason, the number one reason why I want to do this. If you could have been one of the first YouTubers in 2005, 2006, would you want to be that person? Before there was like, you know, all these different types of content, right? Early adopters, but early influencers. That's what you want to be. And that's what you can be with Snapchat. And you can use it the way that your audience, your tribe wants to use it.
Absolutely. So as we land the plane, let's just check back in with the poll. Look at that. So in this case, Snapchat is got 69% to 31% on Instagram
Yeah.
stories. Interesting as far as just the data here. A couple other things. Thanks so much for joining us. Even though we were talking about Snapchat, if you two things. One, we love to give you value and actually have you to get results. And so, and that means doing something, right? That means your next step. And so our action item for today, right, is to write down, maybe for all your social media platforms, here's some kind of homework, right? Write down the value proposition of each of your social networks. It's an incredibly valuable exercise. What kind of value what is Snapchat? Is Snapchat the behind the scenes place? You show up a couple times a week or daily and it's the behind the scenes platform. That'll give you a lot of clarity. What do you do on YouTube? Professional, more, 5-minute videos once a week, and then people can depend on you for that. Facebook is a place where you do X. And I think having clarity is power and focus is power. So if you have a value proposition, if Snapchat's a place where you do daily quick tips, then boom, you could build a lot of momentum. And we call these two things, consistency and conditioning. You're conditioning your audience to trust you and to expect a certain kind of thing. But if you personally have no clue, it's hard to follow somebody that doesn't know where they're going, right? Impossible, actually, right? There's wandering. And so sometimes we're wandering in social media. As soon as we just go, we put our flag and say, okay, daily quick tips on Snapchat, daily, cooking videos or whatever it is, or weekly, then that really gives us. So let us know in the YouTube comments on the rebroadcast, do the work, because we want you to get results. We are so dang passionate about helping you build your influence, income, and impact with online video. And one of those platforms is Snapchat, YouTube, and all these other things. So do the work, and that'll give you a lot more clarity for your next step. And then, hey, we always want to add value. If you haven't downloaded our guide, of course, this is with YouTube, but you can grab, our free guide, 19 things to do every time you upload a YouTube video. Our personal passion is we love Snapchat. It can build more depth. It can build community. It's a place to get creative, but we love YouTube. It's kind of like a home base. And we think, in our opinion, we think everybody should be on YouTube. They should have a weekly show on YouTube if possible, because we showed you that graph. It's actually still number one, right? It's number one, especially for young teen millennials. Then you had Facebook, then Instagram, then Snapchat. So never forget YouTube. Of course, we never will. And we're going to be bringing you more interviews and more content and tips in the coming weeks.
Boom.